welcome to In the Box, our weekly Penguins podcast here on DK Sports Radio. I'm Dejan Kovacevic, joined here in our Highmark Stadium studios by Matt Sunday. What's up, Sunday?
Hey.
Sunday does more than take pictures, you know.
Every once in a while.
Every once in a while. He writes, he does podcasts, he pontificates.
Oh, man, this is the Matt Sunday In the Box episode.
He's about to rap for us.
Oh, I'm not. I'm really
Come on,
not.
Sunday, just a little bit.
I don't know any
You were
raps.
doing it on the mic check. Just do it.
No, I was doing a little Limp Bizkit. I always mic check with the one,
okay.
1, 2. I came into this world as a reject. Look into these eyes, and you see the size of the flames. Benson loves it. He's over there laughing at me. I know way too many Limp Bizkit lyrics. We'll just say that.
Let's progress past the Limp Bizkit portion of the program. I spoke over the weekend with Jim Rutherford on a variety of subjects related to the Penguins this offseason, and one of them was going to be, of course, Phil Kessel. I have never subscribed to the possibility that Kessel would be traded because of any kind of issues between Phil and the coach. But before we get into Jim's thoughts on that, what are yours? I mean, you see Phil out there. You see how emotional he is.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's just one of these side effects of having Phil Kessel on your team is just that you have to deal with them in a different way. But any idea that he was going to be traded, as soon as I started to see some of the rumors come up, I almost chuckle a little bit. I mean, this is a guy, he's as big a part of as any of the last two Stanley Cup runs.
I think sometimes it's easy to think of these things in a vacuum and not picture, okay, what would the team look like without Kessel? What would the power play, which was historically good and by far the best in the National Hockey League, look like without the guy through whom it was running? And we're not that far removed, Sunday, from wondering whether or not Sid and Gino should be split up. Remember? Because, what do you do with these guys? What they needed was glue. Neither of them has really been a quarterback through their career. Phil has been that.
Yeah, if you remove Phil Kessel, you're putting the puck more in the hands of then Justin Schultz or Chris Letang to try and, direct and figure things out.
And neither of them is a quarterback.
No, absolutely not. Phil Kessel, he's a part of this team, and I think that matters just as much as anything because you not just on the power play, but you look at just the way that the team plays. And I know that he struggled down the stretch in the playoffs, but my God, so did everybody else.
So did everybody else. Yeah, no question about that. So Jim Rutherford, his response to me was that he felt absolutely no urgency to move the player based on anything, whether it's regarding the coach, any rift, or anything like that. Now, you can say that that's GM speak, except that I've dealt with Rutherford for a long time. He's not a liar. He's not a BSer. So I believe him. I really don't believe, based on everything that I've heard, even including, I should say, that conversation with Jim, that Phil is going to be moved. You?
Let me ask you this. For a large part of the season, when the Penguins we're talking about them as a bubble team that maybe doesn't even make the playoffs.
Right. Who carried them through 3/4 of the season?
And for how many of those overtime games was he either the deciding goal or the guy who provided the opportunity for
or the shootout goal and whatever. And those count, too, because they get you points in the standings.
I mean, he ended so many games in Pittsburgh alone in 3-on-3 hockey. The record is entirely different without this guy, and I don't know.
They might not have made the playoffs.
That's what I'm saying.
Yeah. I mean, and you know who else knows all this, Sunday? Mike Sullivan.
Yeah.
And that's why the two of them have a relationship that is kind of hard for people on the outside, I think, to understand. And it's one of the points, candidly, that I've been hearing from inside the organization. People think that Phil's just like goofy or weird or whatever, and he does have some quirks to him. But what he is more than anything else is he gets nasty and gnarly because he's that bleeping competitive, you know?
Yeah, he gets a little fire in his eye, and it always cracks me up because I imagine the photos when he's got his helmet off with the wild hair, because anytime he gets a little bit of that extra, I need to beat somebody, 150 feet up the ice and then fire a shot from some just ridiculous angle and try to snipe a corner and end up succeeding for, a good portion of the time. Yeah, he's just a fun guy to watch, man. He gets fired up. He likes to play hockey, and he's a different kind of guy.
So Phil's not going anywhere. We agree on that. Let's talk about a couple of guys who maybe should go somewhere else.
Can I throw something else?
Yeah,
Phil,
yeah,
at you
yeah,
just
yeah.
real
You
quick?
can. It's your show Sunday.
I fell down a rabbit hole the other day on Reddit.
Oh, no.
Where I was watching all these.
Reddit itself is a rabbit hole.
It is. It's nothing but a time sink. But I found some old SportsCenter commercials, and it started with the Ovechkin one where he's the Russian spy, and everybody was having a laugh because there was this old Russian spy Alexander Ovechkin commercial. But I eventually found the old All-Star commercial where Phil Kessel is riding in a shopping cart wearing a Boston Bruins
I have never
jersey.
seen this.
My God.
Are you serious?
Yeah, absolutely.
We're going to have to attach that
I'll
video.
link it in the comments. It is just one of the most beautiful things, and it just proves, I mean, the guy he was so much younger at the time, but he's still a young dude.
He was still Phil.
He was still Phil. I think he still loves to play the game. He does it differently. He's just a different kind of guy. But that's all I had for you.
All right.
That was my rabbit hole.
All right, now we're going to go to the break, and when we come back, two guys who we think maybe shouldn't be here when the Penguins get back to playing. I'm Dejan Kovacevic. He's Matt Sunday. You're listening to DK Sports Radio.
Miller Lite is the original light beer, and we'll always brew it to have more taste, with only 96 calories and 3.2 carbs. Because we believe that if you compromise on taste, you can taste the compromise. Miller Lite. Hold true.
Great beer, great responsibility. 2018 Miller Brewing Company, Milwaukee, Wisconsin. Average analysis, 12 fluid ounces. Less than 1 gram protein, 0 grams fat.
If you're one of the thousands of Western Pennsylvanians who love to get outdoors, then you need to check out this cool new website, stepoutside.org. Learn where, when, and how you can go camping, hiking, or hunting. Or take part in power sports, shooting sports, or water sports in your local community or across the country at stepoutside.org, where everything you need to know is just a click away. That's stepoutside.org.
What I want from my public accounting firm is big ideas.
But I don't want to lose the personal attention.
My company needs global capabilities.
From a firm with local ownership.
And I want to work with industry experts.
Who take the time to understand my unique challenges. And that's what sets Schneider Downs apart. Expertise for the most complex business issues. With the service you need every day. To learn how our big thinking with a personal focus can help your company, visit schneiderdowns.com.
Injured in an accident? Need assistance in preserving your business's interests? Let the attorneys at Bassey, Vreeland & Associates protect your legal rights. For over 65 years, Bassey, Vreeland & Associates has been representing the citizens and businesses of southwestern Pennsylvania. With offices strategically located in Washington and Charleroi, Bassey, Vreeland & Associates can deliver results for you throughout the Pittsburgh area. Visit www.bmvlaw.com or call 724-228-7000 to see how Bassey, Vreeland & Associates can meet your legal needs. Bassey, Vreeland & Associates. We fight, we care, we win.
Welcome back to In the Box, our weekly Penguins podcast here on DK Sports Radio. I'm Dejan Kovacevic. He's Matt Sunday. We're here at our Highmark Stadium studios talking about the extensive interview that I did with Jim Rutherford over the weekend. One of the topics was Matt Hunwick, which leads me into our second segment here very nicely, which is players who maybe shouldn't be back, since we talked about Phil Kessel being back. What was your impression of Matt Hunwick before we get started on Jim's thoughts?
He's not polarizing as Phil seems to be, because
there's a consensus on Hunwick. Yeah,
it's pretty single polarity there. But the Matt Hunwick, he had a couple flashes of maybe fitting into the team earlier in the season before
because he can skate.
His injury.
No one ever says anything good about Matt Hunwick, so maybe we can start there. He can move.
Yeah, no, he can move. He was trusted to play some 3-on-3 hockey in overtime early in the season. He was trusted to move the puck and skate with it. He scored a couple goals. We talk a lot about injuries and the part that they can play, and the mental state of getting over certain types of injuries here. And Man, he might be one of those guys that just couldn't get out of his own way and just get mentally established with the Penguins this season.
Yeah, and that was a point that Jim made pretty strongly, although it was in a little bit of a different context. He spoke rather strikingly, I thought, and I know you for a fact that you agree with this. It was 100%. A little unusual that Hunwick was maybe just kind of blown away by the responsibility of being on a two-time defending Stanley Cup champ. Now, he came from Toronto where they can't even spell Stanley Cup because, they haven't even competed for one since 1967.
Not from outside of the Hall of Fame, at least.
Yeah, but that's kind of like the United Nations. It's just space there.
Its own entity.
Yeah,
it doesn't really. Like the Vatican or
that's
something.
Not the Stanley Cup being in Toronto.
Okay.
They have not even been in a final, by the way. That's my point here. Since
Right.
1967, I can't say this often enough. Sunday.
No, I've never seen you tweet about that.
No, I've never ever mentioned it. However, in this case, this guy comes to a completely different environment, different atmosphere, and with a different sense of responsibility. And according to Rutherford and some of his coaches, that affected him. And you know what? That kind of makes sense because when you saw Hunwick mess up on the ice, what was he doing? He was out of position. He was trying too hard. He was trying to compensate for somebody else's mistakes.
You remember him being out of the lineup for a few weeks and getting back in and getting into a fight?
Yes.
I mean, this is Matt
That's
Hunwick.
a great point. I forgot about that.
What?
Yes.
What was that
what was he
all about?
doing? He was trying to fit in.
I mean, it's a very odd situation, and
I forgot about that. Who was the dude he fought? I'm putting you on a spot here.
I don't remember. That's
we'll put it in the article file. That's what the article files are for.
This guy's season. I mean, it's just so crazy to think about. And then the defense from Jim Rutherford is one of the wildest things that I've ever heard. Because
but it makes sense.
It does make sense, but the way that he said it. Listen, we can say that he shouldn't be a part of the Penguins. The fans can think that, but the way that he made this argument of believing in this guy, Matt Hunwick's going to be a part of the Penguins in this coming season.
There's no doubt about that. There's no buyout in place here. He's got 2 more years at 2.75 each coming. They're not just going to burn that. Never mind absorb the cap hit. He can, if nothing else, stay around as depth, as a 7 guy. But that's not what they want. They want somebody pressing both Hunwick and Chad Ruhwedel. And I think that's going to be the scene that you see in training camp. What hurts that is that a couple of their legit depth guys in Wilkes-Barre, Lucas Bengtsson and Andre Padan, have left. They've signed with European clubs, which means that Jim's going to have to, in all likelihood, go to the outside or, cross his fingers for someone like a Jared Tenorti, Mark Tenorti's son, to step up and, do something in training camp. But for all intents and purposes, Hunwick really could have a job.
Yeah, Taylor Haas really liked Tenorti throughout the season, and she always mentioned him as like the guy that people wouldn't expect, but could be in line for.
I like Tenorti too. Did you?
I didn't get enough time to watch those guys as closely as she does, but I trust her opinion on this.
No, I do too. I think that she watches. Well, she watches everything.
Yeah, she watches every one of those games.
every minor league game that exists. I remember being impressed, for what it's worth, by Tenorti in the preseason game at Detroit. This was last September. I thought his skating stride looked longer and more fluid than what I had thought that it was going in. I thought that his puck movement was better than I thought it would be, and he's got some of that nastiness, that edge that his old man had. That said, we're still talking about, a minor league guy and Hunwick and Ruhwedel. Let's go to somebody else who might not be here. Connor Sherry.
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah, no, absolutely.
$3 million each of the next 2 years. Really has not produced in the playoffs. And for long stretches in the regular season, he's become that guy, Sunday, who only scores if you put him with Sid. And I think a lot of people would do that. You know what I mean?
Yeah, you and I liked, I think it was one game in Philadelphia where he was trying to take on.
He was fantastic.
Yeah, I mean,
the clinching game in Philly.
There are bursts of play like that for him where he's able to create on his own.
But he was out of his mind, and nobody can do that for 82 games other than Patrick Hornqvist.
No, that's completely different. And, I mean, you and I have talked a lot about his streakiness, and I honestly don't think that the guy can create when he's not on a line with Sidney Crosby, and he's not going to play with Evgeny Malkin, so we're never going to see that really come out. I mean, it's either going to be Sidney Crosby or he's going to have to create on a third or fourth line, and I don't see him being able to do it.
Now, you've held that opinion pretty strongly for a while now.
Yeah, I mean,
he does not independently create offense, and the more you've mentioned it, the more I've paid attention and noticed that as well.
Yeah, I mean, that's my stance on that. And the place where I have always liked him is on the second power play unit. I think that second power play bailed out the first unit a lot in the last third of the season especially, and he was one of the reasons why, for some reason, he's maybe a little bit more confident on the puck when he's on the power play. Rightfully so. I mean, you're facing one less defender, but he does create some there.
A little bit. Even then, he has his back to the inside too often on the power play. I'm not crazy about that either. I have no doubt that if Jim Rutherford could move that contract, that he would, even if it's just for the cap space, even if there isn't a significant return.
Well, there probably are some teams out there that could use a guy like that.
Fast and skilled. Yeah.
It's just that the Penguins have too much top six talent that he doesn't fit in. Where do you play him? I just don't see him playing with Jake Guentzel and Sidney Crosby for an extended period of time moving forward in his career. And I think that the best thing for maybe him and the Penguins is to find a spot where they can get something in return, where he can play with guys that he can contribute with and not just be like an extra option.
Or just get the cap money back and get somebody else who fits better. When we come back, goaltending, because, goaltending. He's Matt Sunday. I'm Dejan Kovacevic. You're listening to In the Box on DK Sports Radio.
It's been 50 years since the Summer of Love, but if you're not performing as well as you'd like, check out endedforless.com. I'm Eric Cushy of Curtis Pharmacy. Don't pay premium prices for the little blue pill. So Denafil, the same active ingredient as in Viagra, costs 80% less. endedforless.com. All we need is your physician's name. We do the rest. Free shipping, too. NDDforless.com. Curtis Pharmacy, Western PA's Better Way Pharmacy. CurtisPharmacy.com.
Fast greens, friendly staff, and some of the best wings in Pittsburgh can be found right in the heart of Moon. Moon Golf Club has unique challenges fit for any golfer. And once your round is over, you can be refreshed at the 19th Hole Bar and Grill, offering weekly food specials and daily beer specials. You can even make it a family outing on the weekends when kids play free after 4 p.m. And soon, you'll be able to book your event in their brand new pavilion and patio area. Visit moongolfclub.com to find out more and book your tee time now.
Point Park University can help you earn your degree. Choose from nearly 100 programs leading to bachelor's, master's, and doctoral degrees. Our career-focused programs are taught by faculty who share their real-world experience and practice what they teach. Point Park's downtown Pittsburgh campus gives you the opportunity to work with leading companies and organizations. Choose from on-campus or completely online. You can learn at your pace in the style that works for you. Call 1-800-321-0129 or visit pointpark.edu to learn more.
DKPittsburghSports.com, our city's pioneering independent sports journalism site, now being replicated across the continent, is proud to offer one-of-a-kind coverage of our city's professional sports teams. Steelers, Penguins, Pirates, we go wherever they go. We follow their every move. We work to find the inside stories. We even manage to have a little fun on the job, including our live Q&A sessions with readers every day at 5. A subscription starts at just 99 cents for the first month. And if you like what you read, it's just $3.99 a month after that. We've built up 40,000 subscriptions in just 3 years. We've grown to 5 million page views a month. That's because we're Pittsburgh-born, Pittsburgh proud, and with the help of our readership community, we've been able to reach Pittsburghers near and far, wherever they are. DKPittsburghSports.com, coverage that connects. Welcome back to our Highmark Stadium studios. He's Matt Sunday. I'm Dejan Kovacevic. You're listening to In the Box on DK Sports Radio. And we were going to begin this third segment and talk about goaltending, but again, Sunday wants to digress.
I'm just interrupting you nonstop.
I see you in digress mode over there.
I've got my hand up. I'm trying to get a question into the teacher.
Go ahead.
So I played a game last night, and I didn't spend a single second in the box. Can you believe that? This Ryan Reeves lover over here never spent a second in the box.
No, really?
Never did. You know what I did do?
You didn't crush somebody?
I didn't crush anybody. I didn't own up to
What about
game
a slew foot? What about a slew foot?
No slew foots. One of my teammates did get a slew foot.
It's one of the few penalties I never got.
Oh, man.
Slew foot.
But I did score 4 goals. And
here comes #humblebrag. Very nice.
We're down
5-0
at the end of the first period. This is the third place
Where
game.
was this, by the way?
This is at Mount Lebanon Ice Arena.
Mount Lebanon Ice Arena.
I played a lot of games in that rink. Down 5-0 at the end of the first. My dad, my brother, and I combined for our team's first 6 goals.
Wow.
And 7 of
it
our
was
8.
A Sunday rampage.
And we win the game in a shootout.
All that, and it actually happened on a Sunday.
And it happened on a Sunday.
Wow.
5-0.
Wow.
So the Penguins are not going to be signing the goaltender that we face. No Sundays should ever combine for 7 goals.
No, which leads us into a merciful segue into the actual topic.
Brutal. And I'm sorry if you're the goaltender and you're listening.
At hand. The Penguins probably will not give Tristan Jarry the keys to compete with Matt Murray. That was one of the takeaways from my talk with Jim Rutherford over the weekend. Nothing's been ruled out in terms of who will be the backup. But, man, I got the very strong sense that it's going to be Casey DeSmith unless Tristan Jarry just basically beats him out. And from there, they're going to kind of continue with that understanding that they're just going to go up and down between the two of them, meaning Jarry and DeSmith.
Yeah, and this is something that Chris Bradford and I talked a little bit about when we graded out the goaltenders from the last season. And one of those things that we discussed was that Casey DeSmith makes for the better backup during the regular season. But if something happens to Matt Murray, you make that up and down swap, and I believe that Tristan Jarry then would probably be the guy that you go to if there's an extended absence.
Yeah. I mean, and that's an awkward situation all around, but you have Casey DeSmith, who's like the nicest guy on the planet, who was just going to smile and say whatever. Sure. You want me to start? Sure. You want me to sit on a bench for 19 straight games? Absolutely. I'll be the best bench sitter you've ever had.
And he's done it for a long time.
And he's done that going back to the East Coast League. He's primarily been a backup. It's a strange career he's had.
I'm convinced when this guy played amateurs that he didn't play.
No, he sat on the
bench.
You know what? I'll be the backup goalie, you guys. All right? I'll be right over here if anybody needs me.
His story is almost akin to like the emergency goaltenders we hear about, only he's just done the backup thing for longer.
Right, he's not in the press box. He's down at ice level. And you know what concerns me is that on one hand we can talk about Zach Aston Reese and Daniel Sprong hitting their heads on the AHL ceiling, if you will.
Mm-hmm.
And it's fair. I also wonder if Tristan Jarry, who would now be entering his 4th season in the American Hockey League, wouldn't be doing the same. We have seen with our own eyes that Jarry not only can win in the NHL, he can steal a game in the NHL. He's done it more than once. He did it for a pretty sustained stretch there at the midpoint of the season. He kind of struggled a little bit for a spell after that, and then he was just kind of gone, you know?
Yeah, I just had a chance to look through a lot of the photos that I took of him throughout the season, and I was reminded of those games that he stole because when you asked me for photos for your Jim Rutherford piece, and one of those was Tristan Jarry, and I'm like, man, my best goaltender photos all year are of Jarry, and
because of his technique.
Yeah, he only played a small portion of the season.
But his technique was what stood out. And I remember when we were doing the live files from those games, and you would send up shots that would illustrate his east-west technique.
Oh, when he went right to left and made the save right in front. Yeah.
Yes, you know which one I'm talking about.
Yeah, absolutely.
Down to your right there. I don't remember what game it was. But his technique left to right, I dare say, and I don't care if this is unpopular, is superior to Matt Murray's. That doesn't mean that he's a better goaltender than Matt Murray. Cue obligatory comments about the glove. It's not exactly what I'm referring to here.
Right.
The glove is part of that. But his ability to basically reconstruct himself, if you will, if you think of him as a moving chunk of Legos, Okay, the way he goes and just rebuilds himself from the right position to the left position, he constantly maximizes himself. He makes himself bigger. He makes his presence bigger. He takes away space from the shooter.
I imagined like the Lego Batman movie as you told me that, and seeing the pieces actually like rebuild on like a bridge.
What did you think I had in mind?
I thought that exactly.
Yeah, I'm sure you did.
But no, we talked about him being able to make himself big throughout all portions of the crease.
Yes.
And that's what you're referring to here. And I mean, he just does it. He just does it, and he was able to steal some games. He's a really fun goaltender to watch. I just don't think he's backup material.
Yeah, I know, but at some point, man, he's got to stick in the NHL, and I guess that's my concern here. He doesn't strike me as being mentally fragile.
But that was a concern maybe at the beginning of the season.
But when he goes down again and again and again, and he's won in the NHL, and he's stolen games in the NHL, and then he's sitting on that 14-hour bus ride down to somewhere in Virginia or up to Nova Scotia or wherever it is that they go, that's going to affect you.
Look, if Ryan Malone was willing to sit on some
okay, Bugsy made
rides.
it though. Bugsy had already made it. This is different. This kid hasn't really had his chance yet.
Tristan Jarry is 23 years old still.
I get it.
So I hope that he's willing to, in his mind, accept the fact that this is a team that's won back-to-back Stanley Cups and is now sitting out for the first time really in his time with the Penguins when the Stanley Cup's being played. He has a chance to continue to develop and be a big part of a team that still has years left.
Yeah, you're putting a lot of thought into this. These guys just want to play at the highest level.
He's 23 years old. I mean,
I know.
It's much different than a Jake Gessel being caught up and playing.
But it's different when you've been there and you've succeeded to a certain extent. And, again, not comparing his accomplishments to Matt Murray's, but he and Murray are the same age. And just saying that Murray's 23 so he can go back to Wilkes-Barre and ride buses isn't – you know what I mean? I understand. I'm not comparing the two.
Fair.
But
that's fair.
I'm just saying that he's been up and he's succeeded, and I'm not crazy about the idea of him hitting his head on the ceiling just because you feel more comfortable with a backup being able to come in rusty. Wilkes-Barre's not that far away.
No, it's sure not. We passed it how many times
if you need him to come up and spell Murray on back-to-backs over a weekend or pick up a game against the Rangers, bring him up. Bring him up.
If you've got
That's what I'm saying.
If you've got a chance to start him,
keep him active.
I like it.
In the NHL.
I just don't like the idea of him sitting there waiting to steal a game that the Penguins are down 3-0 in the first period and they make the change and he comes in to play mop up and be the spark guy.
Right. I just hope they're open-minded is all I'm saying. And it sounded like Jim was, but then at the same time it also sounded like maybe not everyone is. So
we like the guy.
We'll see about that. Matt Sunday, this has been fun. Let's do it again sometime.
Anytime you want.
Anytime.
In a world, in a box, at DK.
Just don't rap again. Just don't rap again.
It was Limp Bizkit. It's like rap rock. It's not even real rap.
No, Limp Bizkit was kind of a mix there.
Yeah, it was, it was that hybrid music, metal, rock, something. I like way cooler stuff now.
There are
like
people who
Newfound
hate Limp Bizkit. I mean, the Limp Bizkit's kind of like the Nickelback of rap, aren't they?
Yeah, Fred Durst turned into he's kind of like a preacher, like straight edge, like good dude now.
See, I thought he was pretty cool.
He used to sing all about the nookie, and that was it. And now he's just like a good dude.
Oh, and he made it rhyme with cookie,
as
best as I can recall.
So he really brought that rap aspect
into
the
did it
rap
all
rock.
for the nookie.
He did it all.
Oh, my God, don't get me started rapping. All the listeners are fleeing. Anyway, for those of you who still are with us, I'm Dejan Kovacevic. He's Matt Sunday. This has been In the Box on DK Sports Radio.